Murakoze. Honorable Minister, ngira ngo abari ahangaha mbisegureho ntihaze kugira umuntu usaba kwambara inkweto za CEO wa BRD. Ndaza kugerageza ariko nizitankwira munyihanganire kuko ubutanzajya nkora advocacy bamuzane nyuma kubera ko gusa najya mwizeze ko turi abanyeshuri beza. We are not administrators, we are there to create solutions. And then second, I've been informed that you have Chief Gender Monitor in this room. Chief Gender Monitor hano muri iki cyumba, I have to be gender sensitive. And by the way, Chief Gender Monitor, some 10 years ago, I happened to be in gender machinery in Imije Prof. So I'm an advocate of gender, don't worry. So I will start by inviting the CEO of KEPRA, just to be gender sensitive, to join the panel. It's not order by priority, there is no order today, we are just celebrating. And then second, let me invite Runuya, our young entrepreneur, to join the panel. And then number 3, I would like to invite the DG of RTB to join the panel, followed by the PS Minicom. You're welcome. And then the representative of an institution that has gathered us here today, MIFOTRA. Again, while we are waiting for someone from MIFOTRA to join, and then I would like to invite the CEO of PSF.
As we give them a moment, can we all just stand up for just 1 second? Stand up, stretch your hands, turn around. Thank you. You all look amazing today. Happy Labor Day. Thank you. A round of applause for the panelists. Thank you.
Thank you very much. With your permission, our minister will be mixing both Nyarwanda and English. So I'm running from my predecessor. So in the interest of the audience in the room, so again, allow me to start with a quote. We as Rwandans, we've chosen to be united, accountable, and think big. I know we all Rwandans are aware of this famous quote. We've chosen to be united, accountable, and think big. And there's another popular quote from one author saying that nothing worse than not having a country, a vision, and a visionary leadership. Ndagira ngo twiyamashye nk'abanyarwanda kuko ibi byose turabifite. And then second, I want again to mention just a quote of His Excellency Paul Kagame, that despite our country being small, but we are big when it comes to thinking and finding innovative and sustainable solutions. And we Rwandans can testify that based on where we were 30 years ago and where we are now. And again, our head of state has given us a homework that despite being a small country, where other people can afford to work, we have to run to catch up. And then second, where others can afford to work 2 hours, we have to work 10 more hours so that we can be able to to achieve our dreams. Ndagira ngo buri muntu ahindukire arebe mugenzi we amubaze ngo are you ready? Murakoze cyane, ngira ngo muri unveiling video batangiye batubwira ngo turiteguye guhanga iriya mirimo miliyoni 250 muri iyi myaka 5. Nkurikije quote nakoze ya His Excellency yuko aho abandi bagenda bisanzwe tugomba kwirukanka kugira ngo catching up, ngira ngo bifite icyo bivuze aho twari turi mu myaka 30 murahazi naho tugeze murahazi, kandi hari ikizere ko tuzajya kure birushijeho. Ndagira ngo rero nshimira nanone CEO PS BRD asa n'uwabivuze byose. Panelist ngira ngo yatubwiye ngo tureke kuba administrators and academicians, and then you are going to follow suit. So let me start with Deje RTB. From your experience, and I know you've been in the TV sector for quite many years, so what has been your experience and what did you run and what do you think we can do differently?
So microphones are working. Yes, you can hear me now. Thank you very much. Yeah, thank you, moderator. Thank you, honorable ministers. That is a very good question. So yes, we are in skills development, but what I have learned so far is that if we really want to be successful in skills development and job creation, we have to work hand in hand with the private sector. So the academia and the industry have really to work hand in hand. And the mistake we have done for so long was to play a kind of a blame game between the industry and the academia. So the academia was like, you guys in the industry, you are not helping us to give opportunity to our learners and graduates to learn on the job. And we, in the skills development, we were like, you guys, you are not helping us also to kind of define what you have to teach in our schools. So, and the industry was like, graduates you are producing are not competent enough, and we need to reskill them. We need to teach them from scratch again. So now it's time to come together to bring these both actors together in such a way that whatever we teach in our education system, whatever we teach in our skills development system is defined by the industry. So now we need to really go as quick as possible and set up sector skills councils and give them room to define what is to be taught, what is to be learned in our schools, and work hand in hand on a regular basis. So that is what I feel like doing so. This gap between academia and industry will be like, we shall overcome it and start really working together and produce the right jobs, competent graduates, and create new jobs.
CEO of Kepra, yeah, you know, people, you are well known of being solution providers. And you can be proud of the fact that your students are good at maybe providing innovative solutions. And most importantly, when it comes to self-confidence, an aspect of soft skills. The second milestone, the way maybe you are just deploying your efforts in terms of career guidance, as well as doing a kind of traceability of where your students are. So can you share with us what has been your experience throughout that journey? And what can you give as an advice to other higher learning institutions?
Okay, good morning, everyone. I also agree it's very difficult to speak after Kameta because I think basically she said everything and we should go home. But I want to answer the question that you haven't asked me, but I think that is the most important thing that I can bring on this very esteemed panel. So let me, I just came back from Libya. Libya, which is a very, very different country. That's another time for conversation. But there was the Africa Volleyball Championship, and a Rwandan team made the top 4 teams, which is great. But the final match was between Egypt and, Libya and Tunisia. And the kind of volleyball that was being played was very high level. And why was it high level? All the players on those teams have been playing since they were very young, 8, 7 years old. So there's a way in which they were playing that they didn't have to think about what they were doing. I don't know if you understand where I'm going with this. This means that the type of skills, and I'm going to come back to the skills question, the type of skills and competencies that we want in the next 15 years, the next 20 years, to get us to the goal that we have set ourselves in terms of jobs, but also the growth in GDP that Campeta was talking about, requires us to really tackle learning and thinking at a very young age. I want to say this. AI, and I'm sorry to say this while the Minister of ICT is here, there's absolutely solutions that we can fix later on using technology. But technology will not fix the issue we have currently in early learning. And this is something as a society, you know, in the early 90s after the genocide against the Tutsi, we sat down and thought about our governance system, and we made choices as a country. And I'm saying that it is an urgent priority that we sit down as parents, teachers, and as a country, and we solve this issue in the early learning stages. Because at this point, what Kepler can do well, which is what we do now, which is to fix foundational learning and skills once they come in at Kepler. That's why our students are successful, because we spend the first 7 months at Kepler not doing anything, what we call the hard skills. We focus on digital literacy, we focus on critical thinking, and I'll come back to that. We focus on soft skills, and we also focus on life skills, simple things like hygiene in the first 7 months. And this sets them up for success once they start in what we call the academic side of things. So we are fixing something that should have been tackled when they were in primary and secondary school. And as CEO of BRD mentioned, our issue right now is productivity. And when we talk about productivity, ndashaka no kubivuga mu Kinyarwanda, buriya productivity ni ukuvuga ngo njyewe nk'umukozi ngomba kubasha gukora byinshi kurusha ibyo mfite gukora, which means I have to know how to use technology. I have to know how to use this technology. I have to manage my time well. A lot of it is around the top skills that, you know, the World Economic Forum and others talk about. The top 10 skills of the World Economic Forum, 6 of them are soft skills. Adaptability, teamwork and collaboration, resilience, time management, all these soft skills are things that we need to teach at the same time as we're teaching the technical skills that we have in TVET and other places. So number one, if I want to just say, we need to tackle early learning to make sure that our students are thinking. So in the world to come, I think Campeta talked about it very little. For me, there's a huge debate in the education sector around, is skills enough? So is it just teach somebody skills? And it's important for our young people to have skills, but to also think, which is what knowledge is. If you create knowledge, you have to be a thinker. And critical thinking, you cannot learn it at 20, 25. That is why we have a culture of yes. Dufte culture yubukoroni. Tell me what to do, I get my money, I leave. But to become an entrepreneurial society, we have to be people who think. And we start to think very young. So part of, I think, the skills, the top 10 skills that we teach at Kepler, and that's why our students, I hope, are successful. We're trying to measure their self-confidence, because your confidence should be also built on experience and things that you have actually done. But I think what we have tackled is we've integrated the top skills that are required today and tomorrow as soon as they walk in the door. So before you learn how to code in Excel or whatever the case is, or do some project management life cycle work, you need to be able to type 50 words per minute. It's a requirement in the first 7 months. You have to have some digital skills. You have to be able to answer questions. So we have a project-based degree where we give you real-life scenarios. You do pre-reading, and when you come to class, we give you scenarios, because that's how the workplace is, right? You have to fix problems. So those are all things that I think we have to integrate early on, and I think our accreditors and our Ministry of Education has to become more flexible in understanding that we have to try as much as possible to get these things solved. I think I've said a lot, but that's all I wanted to say for today.
Thank you very much, CEO, for sharing us your experience and what you're doing to make sure that you're increasing the chance for your students, maybe your students to become employable once they graduate. I would like to move to the CEO of PSF, There's a strong statement that was made by COBRD saying that all the jobs to be created must, I quote, must come from the private sector. What does it imply, especially in terms of creating an enabling environment for the MSMEs to grow and be sustainable?
Thank you. When they use the word must, it is mandatory. So you don't have an option to change it. But I agree, it's a must because that is the trend globally. It's a must because that is the way to go. And the biggest population in any country that contributes heavily in the economic growth is private sector. So you cannot contribute unless you added the value that we are talking about. The biggest question is how. It is no longer why, but it is how. If you look at the Rwandan perspective, almost every sector is growing. I have seen some entrepreneurs here in the room. We have few companies that are as 50 years old and above. They are still new, and that's why you see in the statistics that are being produced, you have the biggest SMEs, the startups, informal, because the mortality rate or the maturity of the companies in the economy are still few. But the way to go is private sector has to play a big role. And that means we have to change the way we are doing things. How do we do it? It has to start from the policy level, because that is the drive of everything. And even the implementation. What plans do we have to implement whatever we are discussing in this room? If I had a way of making a decision in this room, after CEO's speech from BRD, I would say the session is over, go apply whatever she has said. Simple as that. But as you can see, we are repeating again. We are going to emphasize babyita gushimangira, no gusubiramo, no kwibutsa. So, reka nshimangire mvuge ngo nibyo private sector it has to create the jobs. The how part is it is not one man's job. Ni twese hamwe. It is not one, there is no one size fits all. Ni twese abari muri iki cyumba, abatari muri iki cyumba, abari hanze y'iki gihugu nk'abanyarwanda. It is everyone's effort that we have to create jobs, and we have to make sure that the jobs we are creating ntabwo ari indirimbo sinzi if it was deliberate mu gitero kimwe bavugaga ngo bana banje nimunkurikire murebe intambwe ntera ngira ngo muzanarenzeho. So the jobs we are creating should be the jobs that are going to be there 100, 200 and so many other years that we are, as long as the country is still going to be there. Thank you.
Thank you very much, CEO. I would like to bring in an aspect of gender equality. And then, when CEO BRD has been sharing with us the experience and how we stand now, he touched base on some of the important issues when it comes to gender equality. Labor and utilization, subsistence farming, and that kind of maybe urban-rural divide. So, I'd like to give a floor to the Chief Gender Monitor to tell us what we can do as we are moving forward to make sure that as we are creating productive and decent jobs, we make sure that we are addressing this issue of labor and utilization and supporting women to move from subsistence farming to market-oriented agriculture. So can you help us to give the microphone to the Chief General Monitor? Microphone, please. So as we are waiting for the the Chief General Monitor to get microphone. I can maybe, in the meanwhile, raise the question to our young entrepreneur. You've listened to what has been said here throughout your journey. I'm almost asking the same question. To be able to create the jobs, productive and decent jobs that you are mentioned in a varying video. So what do you think should be done differently to create an enabling environment for MSMEs?
All right. Thank you very much. My name is Johnson Runuya. I'm 23 years old, and I am the founder of a bakery called Johnson the Baker, a bakery that started in 2020, about 5 years ago now. By the way, we just turned 5 last week. COVID, yeah. And I'm here today not as an academic or a consultant or a public servant, but as a young entrepreneur who started selling at high school with borrowed muffin trays. I was the kind of guy that had more donuts in the bag than books, you see the kind? So, but you see, I was lucky. I was lucky because I've had a chance to have some little internships, you know. I was doing Cambridge at high school, so it was kind of mandatory and to do internships, and the school made sure you get internships. So thanks a lot to Basso Patissier in Kiyovu who gave me a chance for my first real kitchen experience. But you see, now I run a business of a similar size, right? A bakery that employs 20 people, feeds 40 clients above daily. We are launching a night food delivery company that only works at night, basically, from 9 p.m. to 5 a.m. So basically what we do, we open when everybody is closed, and we close when everybody is about to open. But you see, those things, you have to have young people to do that, to be this disruptive, you see. And many of us say that we want skilled workers, right? But we avoid the responsibility of creating them. We want accountants, marketers, bakers, who are kind of ready-made, like a car, like, you know. But we don't want to train them. We fear that we're wasting time. We fear that we're wasting money. But we forget that the skilled workers of today have been the interns of yesterday. And then we complain that accountants and good employees are expensive. They're expensive because they are scarce. And the young people don't have a chance. They don't have access to internships as much as they need. So I believe that hosting interns is kind of like a civil duty. It should be a civil duty for businesses of a certain size. Maybe businesses that take a certain percentage of their staff as interns, let's say 5%, can maybe get, I don't know, 2% exemption on taxes maybe, because it is those very people that will come back 5 years with the experience you're looking for to lead your department, you see. So it's in my interest as a business to train, because it's tomorrow. It's the team of tomorrow that I'm training, you see. So I would like to also thank the government through your support, be it entrepreneurship, training schemes, or even just presence in our business, you've reminded us, you've reminded many of us that we are not alone in the journey of entrepreneurship. So at Johnson the Baker, our long-term vision isn't just to sell croissants to customers. We want to sell systems to our competitors. We're currently building our own ERP accounting system. Those are interns doing that. People that graduated high school last year. So you need both in a company, even in big companies. I'm very happy to see more big companies using young people in their marketing team, you see. So yeah, we need that blend. We need that blend of skilled, senior, and young and ambitious. And you see, if a shy boy that I was when I was getting my internship is here today on a panel, and you have ministers and you have CEOs, just because I got a 2-week internship, imagine, then there is no limit to what thousands of Rwandan youth can become if they have internships.
So can you try to wrap up so that we can give a chance to other panelists and the audience?
Yeah, more internships. Thank you.
I'm so sorry, I'm a bit just cautious about time as we are having many speakers and the audience. You have to. Thank you very much. Maybe let us move to the Chief General Monitor to just stress the importance of mainstreaming gender as we are moving forward and addressing some of the prevailing issues that I already mentioned.
Okay, thank you very much, the moderator, for the question. It's quite surprising. I was not aware that I was going to talk about this today, but that's it's okay. It's good that this question was asked during, actually yesterday, there was an assignment that had been given by the Parliament. I think the report from the National Public Service Commission of 2022-2023 shows, even the reports, 5 reports before that one, was showing that women, especially in the public sector, they are not applying for jobs. Among the job seekers or the people who are applying for jobs, only 25% are women, and 74 point something are men. So the question by the parliamentarians was asking why are we seeing that? Why women are not applying for jobs, especially in the public sector? And we had time to work on that with some consultants, and some of the key findings that we have been able to see are quite diverse. The first one, when we look at women, especially young women, but also women who are maybe of our age, the first challenge they are meeting is at some point also related to the access to digital platforms. They said they are not able to, especially for the public sector, when we use the system for applying for jobs, the access is not there because most of them, they don't have those smartphones, the computers. But even those who have them, the access is quite limited. One of the interviewer told us that especially for boys or young men, when they graduate from a university, they come here in the city and live in the ghettos, and they are exposed to the jobs. But women, they have that limitation. They stay home, especially in the rural areas. I think CEO they talked about the 60% of job seekers who are not fully utilized that are in the rural areas, and the majority are women. So one of the challenges is that still in the rural areas, they have that limitation when it comes to digital platforms. And those challenges you don't see, they are also there for boys and men, but they're not as big as for women. The other thing is, and it is one of the recommendations, It goes for the MIFOTRA, but also the private sector and all employers, is to, again, to look in the whole process of recruitment, how gender responsive the whole process is. We know, like for public sector and MIFOTRA, but I know they started to respond to that issue. But now we have centers where people go to do exams for jobs. Sometimes those centers are very far from homes. Again, for women who have children, young children, or who have not means for transport, or even who cannot stay in a very far area. You know, when they do interviews, they start in the morning up to the evening. And sometimes it can be a challenge for a woman to stay, or a young woman, to stay in an area where she's not familiar with, or she has to travel very far. But I know this is starting to be responded to. We heard that for the last recruitment of teachers, they created many centers. The local government is also doing the same. So very good. The education and the exams centers, how near they are, or how convenient they are, but also how gender sensitive they are. And I have been asking PS on a message last day. I was hearing a baby behind me crying, and I was like, you didn't plan for a room, for mother's room for kids? And they said no. But how centers are becoming more gender sensitive. Another thing is also, another thing that came up is the panels for the interviews. Many of the, there was one woman who has been interviewed, and she said she was going to do an exam, an interview. When she entered the room, she saw only 5 men sitting there, all old men with spectacles, very serious. And she was like, am I going to have this job? And fortunately, she got it, but it's an experience that stayed with her. How do we have gender diverse panels, but also not only gender diversity, but also gender sensitive. Also panelists should be gender sensitized on different areas. So, I would say a lot, but we also share this study very soon. But all in all, what the whole study showed is that we still have barriers. I'm sure Minister, in her opening remarks, she talked about it. The workplaces are not yet gender sensitive. We thank, for example, BRD, BECA, and the other trusted private sector who have been able to open early childhood centers at workplace, also the city of Kigali, by the way. So those are some areas that employers need to look at if we want to attract women, and if we want to have women as employers and as leaders in the different employment places. Navuga byinshi ariko navuga nti mureke when NST2 ivuga gutanga umurimo ku bagore, ku rubyiruko ariko no ku bagore, kandi haracyari barriers nyinshi zikigaragara ku mugore kubona umurimo, ariko ikiza nuko strategies turazifite, icyangombwa mugani tureke kuba administrators, reka tube abantu koko bakora kandi bakemura ibibazo. Murakoze.
Mwakwihanganye mukongera mukantiza amashyi twamushimira. Ngira ngo mu Kinyarwanda avuze ibintu byinshi, ariko ni nabyiza ko atuneguye muri rurimi rw'amahanga yuko hano yumvisha umwana inyuma akaba nta cyumba twateguye. Next time tuzabyitaho rwose. Anavuze ku bijyanye n'ibizami, aho ibizami bikorerwa hirya no hino mu turere. Ngira ngo nabyo turagerageza, kandi mu by'ukuri mubivuze neza ko we are not here as administrators. We are here to create, to find solutions. We work together nk'uko bisanzwe. Dushake ibisubizo. Avuze naho dukorera hirya no hino mu bigo bya leta ndetse n'abikorera yuko naho tugifite urugendo mu gushaka ibisubizo kugira ngo aho dukorera mu by'ukuri hite ku bijyanye no na mainstreaming ihame ry'uburinganire. Murakoze Chief Gender Monitor ku butumwa mutugeneye. Now I'll move to the PS Minicom. We know the industrial policy has identified some priority sectors to drive the creation of jobs, and job export promotion as well as economic growth. Nagira mutubwire ibisubizo industrial policy irimo kuzana, especially ku bijyanye no gufasha urwego rw'abikorera kugira ngo bashe kudufasha guhanga iriya mirimo, kuko bavuze yuko all the jobs must be created, almost all of them, by the private sector.
Thank you very much, moderator. Thank you, honorable ministers. Maybe before I get into it, I just wanted to say thank you, Minister of Public Service and Labor, for giving us an extra day to celebrate being the youth on social media have taken to calling you the Minister of Enjoyment. And indeed, it's important that on Labor Day we celebrate and we enjoy, for those who are fortunate to have employment, gainful employment, to celebrate and to enjoy what it means to be an employee, what it means to be an employer. So that celebration is important, and I think we need to reflect on it. But it's also a call to action, both for those in the public sector and in the private sector. How do we ensure that more people can gain and can provide jobs and can be gainfully employed so that they can also celebrate on this very important day? And indeed, the industrial policy, as you've said, and the role of the Ministry of Trade and Industry is really to put in place the enabling environment to allow for private sector to operate and to do business. Now, as much as we can talk about industrialization, we can talk about manufacturing, I think CEO RDB said it well, it shouldn't matter about the sector. It's about how do you maximize the various sectors in the economy. So manufacturing, of course, I can talk about it very closely because it's close to my heart, it's close to what we do. But when we're talking about employment, we're talking about it across the entire economy. GDP, ubukungu muri rusange tuburebera muri sectors zitandukanye. Hari sector y'ubuhinzi, hari sector ya services na sector y'inganda. Zose zirimo zirakura, zirimo ziriyongera nkuko CEO PSF yabivuze. But how do we accelerate and triple and double that growth? Recently, I think it was NISR, they released the data. I also happen to be an economist, so numbers, it's interesting turazibika hano. Tatuwaza aho tuzibika ariko tuba tuzifite somewhere. And agriculture grew by 5% over the last year, 2024. And the question was, but why didn't it grow by 10% or 15%? Because it's such an important sector of the economy. And part of it, I think, comes down to how do you maximize what is coming out of a particular sector? So we can get into the details of what the priority sectors are, but I think what's more important is how do we ensure that we are, for lack of a better word, milking every ounce of the opportunity in every sector of the economy, whether that's in manufacturing, whether that's in services or agriculture. And I think part of it is maybe threefold. I'll put it in three phases. One is simplifying the process and deregulating bureaucracy. And that's what we've been trying to do across government, not even just at the Ministry of Trade and Industry, is really ensuring that we provide a conducive business environment that allows private sector to work without barriers to entry and without burdensome bureaucracy. So mwumvishe process government yatangiye ya one-stop center yo kuvanaho processes zitandukanye yaba ama licenses yaba extended cyangwa se costs zasabagwa kuri certifications zitandukanye. So ibyo ngibyo ni ibintu tugomba kongera tuka expandinga muri sector zose kugira ngo ishoramari urubyiruko ababa bashaka kwinjira muri iyo sector babashe kwinjiramo byoroheje biborohe. Second, and this for me is very important because there's a responsibility for the private sector. And I really want to put the onus on the private sector because I think as much as there's still a lot of work to do in creating an enabling environment, I think Rwanda has probably one of the best sectors to create business, right? When we talk about ease of doing business, I think overall there's great simplicity, although there's efforts that need to be expanded. But the private sector, we need to do three things. One is our governance models and our governance systems within our businesses needs to improve. You find that we have what's called pocket business plans or pocket boardrooms. You keep your boardroom in your pocket. It's you, yourself, and I. You have no team of advisors, you have no board to even help you. And I'm not saying that you have to be a Fortune 500 company to be able to have a management model that helps you. But you need a governance system that helps you to operate. Two is a financial accounting system that makes sense. Akenshi, again, we also do a lot of our calculations on our phones, on napkins. Ugasanga niho imibare itangira kudahura. The math stops mathing. And for a sustainable business, for a business to be able to scale, you need financial statements. And those can be perceived as burdens for a business, but they're so essential to be able to grow, to scale, to create the jobs, and to do the value addition that the CEO was talking about. And then third, and for me this is very important because it's how we grow the private sector and how we enable the private sector to grow, which is doing things collectively, doing things together. Of course, in business, there's what's called mergers and acquisitions, collective investment companies here in Rwanda. There's a need for us to start creating larger firms, larger businesses that are able to leverage on greater access to credit, better, more affordable access to credit, better processes and products and systems and knowledge. So there's a need to really focus on how do we create businesses that are more efficient, that are bigger. And I think being able to tackle those three things are very important. So on the side of government, we'll continue to simplify the process, to remove the barriers to trade, the barriers to doing business. But there's also a responsibility on the private sector. And I think it's only by collaborating, working together, both private sector, public sector, that we can be able to achieve this. So I'll maybe stop here for now and come back later. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. I said maybe it's now the turn for the audience to tell us what are their thoughts are, what are their reflections on what has been discussed. Hashize umwanya abantu bicaye bakurikira, umwanya ni uwanyu kugira ngo duhereye no kubyagiye bivugwa n'abatubanjirije CEO BRD n'abandi Chief General Monitor n'aba panelist. So umwanya ni uwanyu rero kugira ngo namwe dusangire ijambo muduhe ibitekerezo. Yaba ari ikibazo, inyunganizi, the floor is yours. Mwadufasha gutanga microphones. Uvuga arajya tubwira amazina hanyuma atanga igitekerezo very briefly mu magambo make, hanyuma atubwire n'uwakibajije cyane bari igitekerezo atatubwiye igitekerezo mu magambo make cyane kugira ngo dukoreshe umwanya neza.
Yego ndakoresha nk'umunota umwe cyangwa iminota ibiri. Amazina yanjye nitwa Richard Tuyizere, nkaba nagushimira we moderator wabaye lecturer wanjye muri kaminuza umwaka ushize. Mbere na mbere ndashimira Mifotra yahisemo.
Wadufasha ukabanza ukamara impungenge COBRD niba byara administration cyangwa byaba ari kandi ntutinye ko hari abayobozi benshi, ube honest.
We wari nk'umubyeyi reka mbivuge gutyo, ngendeye kuri confidence yawe n'ubundi natwe wayituremyemo, reka ndekera aho ngaho. Ikindi nari mpereye kuri Mifotra, ndayishimira kuri initiative yatangije yo gushakira abantu internship, yaramfashije cyane. Nize statistique demography, ariko nahise mbona internship muri assurance, noneho ubu ngubu nayirangije, ndi mu kwezi kwa nyuma, ariko habonetsemo n'umwanya sinabona amahirwe yo guhita mbona akazi, ariko naravuze ngo ntabwo ngiye kujya mu rugo ngo ndyame. Kuri iyi theme ihari ya job creation, nahise ntekereza ngo harimo ikibazo muri assurance. Ndatekereza abantu mwese muri hano bafite imodoka mujya mwibagirwa kwishyura assurance, bikageraho babaca amande. Naravuze ngo rero muri kuno kwezi ngiye kugerageza nshaka ibyangombwa, nshake na tini muri RDB, noneho mbe nabo mu agent, ngewe nikereye akazi, ndetse wenda nibiba na binini ako kazi nzagende mfasha n'abandi ku buryo umuntu yanashinga call center, why not? Noneho niho rero nari magurutse mvuga ngo wenda ibyo bya contribute 0.000% kuri ya $1,250,000, ariko nanjye wenda byatuma mbyuka singiye kuryama mu rugo, nangire nyine ngira icyo nkora. Rero icyifuzo cyari cyane cyane ko kino cyumba kirimo abantu benshi kandi bamfasha kugera kuri ibyo bintu, nagira ngo nsabe RDB, BRD n'abandi bose ko mwamfata akaboko akaguru mutagamije mwamfata akaboko akaguru mutagamije kuba mwancamo kabiri, ahubwo ari ukunzamura. Ubwo rero ntekereza ninicara ahangaha biba bimeze nk'aho birangiye, sinzi nimba hari ikintu cyakorwa, kuko hari na meya w'umujyi wa Kigali rwose ngende kwaka ubufasha, sinshaka kuryama pe, kuko n'ubusanzwe sinkunda kuryama, ariko nimba ari ibishoboka mwamfasha nkaba natangira iyo projet, cyane cyane ko ibya assurance nyine nubwo nize statistique, ariko ibya assurance narabimenye ku buryo nshobora no kudiringa. Nimba wajyaga wishyura assurance ukishyura yo bakubwiye, ngewe wanyuraho akagabanuka, hari utuntu tuba turimo hagati ushobora kunegosiya tukaba twavamo.
Urumva wagerageza ukagana ku musozo.
Icyifuzo cyari icyo ngicyo, nkawe moderator n'ubundi nk'uko wabaye umubyeyi ukomeze unamvuganire. Murakoze.
Mwaduhera mikoro nyakubahwa meya w'umujyi wa Kigali, ndabona ashaka kugira icyo avugaho mbere y'uko duha abandi mikoro.
Murakoze. Imujenera. So ubwo ngubwo we turavana tuvuganye, ibyo turabishakira igisubizo. Dufite ibibazo by'abantu muri bijyanye na assurance, abantu batugongera imikindo n'ibindi, ubwo urabidufashamo akazi kubwo byatunganye. Nyakubahwa Minister, nagira ngo nanjye nshimire Mifotra iyi statement ayikora mu Kinyarwanda, kuko abazi history ya celebration ya Labor Day twajya dukora defile abantu bakanyuraho bikarangira, ariko I think umunsi w'umurimo is a very important time ku gihugu, uko CEO Pichet yabivuze, igihugu cyacu kiri unique in so many ways. Nashaka kuvuga gusa kuri maybe for local government leaders bari hano, maybe tukwiye gutangira kubideba umurimo kuri ku mafaranga du spending. Dufashe urugero nk'umujyi wa Kigali dufite budget ya miliyari hafi 300, ariko urebye amafaranga akoreshwa mu kugira ngo agere ku muturage nk'igihembo usanga ari makeya. So twaricaye nk'umujyi wa Kigali dushaka uburyo dushobora gukoresha amafaranga dufite, ariko kugira ngo abantu babone akazi. Buriya umurimo ni ukuba umuntu afite imbaraga n'ibitekerezo akagira icyo abibyazamo kugira ngo abone igihembo. So nagira ngo wenda mvuge ko ubu ngubu for the last few weeks twabashije kongera umubare w'abantu bagira uruhare mu bikorwa by'isuku ndetse no mu busitani dufite, twabakubye kabiri dukoresheje the same amount of budget ariko dukoresheje different approach. Twafatanyije n'inzego z'urubyiruko cyane cyane youth volunteers na National Youth Council bakora cooperatives, tugirana amasezerano y'ubufatanye ku buryo mu bikorwa byacu by'isuku ndetse n'ubusitani budufite mu mujyi wa Kigali muzajya mubona abana bambaye amajire ya orange na green. Buriya n'ubufatanye butuma abo bana babona akazi bakagira skills. Tukaba turagira ngo dusensitizing abantu bari hano, nyamuneka nujya kugura igiti uzabaze ahantu hari iyo koperative bagura ibyo biti, kuko iyo babigurishije babona n'abandi baha akazi kakiyongera. Ubwo navugaga biriya Pichette yavugaga bya Nigerian uncle, you know, we should be uncles of our young folks. Nidutabitekereza gutyo tukumva ko hari company iri ahantu kure zaza igakora umushinga munini, nibaza ko bishobora gutangira ku bintu dufite duspendinga, kuko yaba akarere yaba umujyi wa Kigali buri mwaka hari amafaranga dukoresha. Aya mafaranga rero ni gake umuntu ajya gusinya contract ari chief budget manager akamubaza ngo aya mafaranga ngiye kuguha miliyoni 10 ni bande bazabona amakazi. Tubanze dukurikiranye every single franc to spendinga dushobora kongera abantu duha amahirwe y'akazi. Icyo cyari kimwe. Icya kabiri nshaka kuvugaho, ngira ngo sio Pichette yakivuzeho ariko ntago kijye gikunda kuza cyane. Akazi ntago ari automatic. Nibyo hari ushaka umukozi ariko hari n'umukozi ukenewe uwo ari we. Tuvuga soft skills ariko attitude is very important. Iyo tugiye kureba ahantu hose tuba turi usanga ibibazo byinshi duhura nabyo nuko ushobora kubona umukozi wize ufite diplome ariko wa muntu ukenewe ufite the right attitude uzaguha umusaruro. Icyo bita return on investment, kuko iyo uri umukoresha cyane cyane muri private sector ukaba ufite abakozi 10 urabara ukavuga ngo uyu mukozi tuvuge niba wenda babumba nka block, umwe arabumba block 10 undi arabumba block 2 kubera attitude, arakora imwe akajya kuruhuka akajya kuri telefone. Icyo kintu mbona nacyo dukwiye gukomeza kugishyiramo imbaraga, kuko if you are to compete as a nation birasaba ko abajene bacu bagira the right attitude they are fighting, we have to fight. Attitude yo kuvuga ngo nta kintu cyakunanira ya perseverance, ariko attitude yo kutagira entitlement. Urabibona ahantu henshi ubona abantu baduha akazi, ntabwo umuntu ashobora guha akazi. No, ntabwo bibaho gutyo. Ntabwo akazi ari gift, akazi ni merit. So merit rero isaba ko hazamo akantu ka violence kuri buri muntu wese. Amushobora ko abantu bose bari hano bakuru bafite akazi. I think there is that component akenshi yaturuka ku babyeyi back in the days. Uyu munsi ubona ko parenting is collective. Nyakubahwa Minister, nagira ngo icyo kintu cyo tugishyiremo imbaraga mu rubyiruko. Sinzi ukuntu wenda education system yagishyiramo ariko ubona kiri kugenda kirakinga. Iyo ufashe nko muri nko mu bajene umuntu abakozi baba bari mu bigo ukareba like the amount of effort na details abantu bashyira ku kazi, yaba ari akazi ko mu biro yaba ari akazi k'amaboko, usanga icyo kintu ugenda kibura, kandi nicyo gituma na wa musaruro sio Pichette yavuga kugenda wiyongera, kuko umusaruro turuka kuri dedication, creativity, ariko n'uburyo washyize imbaraga zawe zose ku kintu. Ntabwo umusaruro ari physique gusa, ugomba kuva no muri quality no mu bindi bintu byinshi cyane. So I just wanted to drop that, ariko uriya mujene we ndashaka ko tujyana tukabirangiza uyu munsi. Murakoze.
Thank you very much, Mayor of the City of Kigali, for sharing with us innovative solutions that the City of Kigali is providing in terms of creating more productive and decent jobs. And again, thank you very much for alluding to the importance and the role to be played by the local government, because all that we are saying, all the companies and all job creators and MSMEs are operating in each and every 30 district in our country. So it's very key. And then thanks a lot for just reminding young people that despite that maybe the government of Rwanda is doing a lot to make sure that all the requirements are in place, but they have to be resilient, have the right attitude, and make sure, be aware that jobs should be given on merit, not as a gift. Twahera hehe hari, we have to be gender sensitive. Nabonye inyuma gato ya CGM umunota umwe munyihanganire kuya dukoresha igihe neza. Inyuma ya CGM ukoresha umunota umwe utanga igitekerezo cyangwa ikibazo.
Murakoze cyane. Amazina ni Mbabazi Antoinette, acting DG Rika. Nanjye nashakaga gutanga contribution, ariko cyane nanahamagarira nsaba abantu kugira ngo bitabire no gahunda turimo dukora. Rika ni urwego rw'igihugu rushinzwe ku igenzura ry'ubuziranenge, ihiganwa mu bucuruzi no kurengera umuguzi. Mu kugira ngo izo inshingano zisohore, murabyumva harimo amategeko, amabwiriza y'ubuziranenge. Abacuruzi benshi babibona nk'imbogamizi muri business, ndetse bamwe bakabiyitirira ko bizana gupfa kw'ama business cyane cyane y'aba startups. Ariko mu by'ukuri iyo tukora business nuko tuba tugira ngo tuzashobore no kugera ku masoko. Bityo icyo twakoze mu rwego rwo kugira ngo birusheho kugenda neza, turimo turakorana n'abaterankunga batandukanye dufatanyije n'inzego zitandukanye za leta. Dufite internship program. Urugero nabaha, nk'imyaka 2 ishize twafashe amahoteli 60 tushiramo program yo kugira ngo bakore HACCP, Food Safety Management System. Tushiramo internees 60 buri hoteli, tubigisha ibyo by'ubuziranenge. Uba benshi muri bo nibo barimo gukora consultancies bafasha izindi, kuko izo ngizo zarafashijwe zigera kuri ibyo. Mu minsi yashize nanone twafashije abantu bageze 60, n'ubu dufite abandi 40 mu kubatoza tukaba internships mu mabagiro kugira ngo bamenye neza ubuziranenge bw'inyama guhera mu mabagiro bigenda gute. Ubu ngubu dufite nanone partnership na Trademark funded by Mastercard kugera ku internship 200. Tukaba tubasaba ko muzabakira kuko ni gahunda ikiri mu itangiro, bakakora izo internship nko kumara umwaka kugira ngo bamenye neza tubatoza bya bintu by'ubuziranenge. Ejo bundi bizorohe kujya ubona umuntu uzi by'ubuziranenge kugufasha muri ruganda rwawe, byose bikazamura isoko. Kuki turimo kubikora rero? Ndajya ngo mbateguze. Turimo kubikora kugira ngo bizahinduke part of licensing conditions.
Ugerageze wihutisha.
Ndasoje. Turabikora kugira ngo icyambere tube tuzi ngo ku isoko ry'umurimo dufite abantu bahuguwe bazi ibi bintu. Nyuma yaho gato bizaba part of licensing condition. Ntabwo uzaba wemerewe kugira license yo cooperating muri business runaka udafite umuntu ufite bwa bumenyi, kuko ari byo bizagabanya ibihombo ya GDP ikazamuka neza. Murakoze cyane.
Thank you very much. She's been trying to just share with us the experience of Rika and how they are contributing to the internship, but at the same time addressing core standard issues. Ndabona young people, they are ready.
Murakoze.
Are you ready?
Murakoze.
Waburetse gatoya ninde avuga ari hehe? Utaza kunyambura ijambo ninge moderatinga. Harayavuga umuntu ahaye umwanya. Watubwira igitekerezo cyawe ufite microphone? Yes.
Murakoze.
Murabona ko abantu bazamuye ikiganza ari benshi, ni umunota umwe.
Murakoze. Nitwa Nsanzu Mukiza, naturutse muri World Wide Learning Campus. Ndabanza gushimira Mifotra, ariko mfite ikibazo narindi kuvuga. Iyo abantu bafite ubumuga bagiye gukora exam cyangwa bakoze application kuri Mifotra, especially abantu batabona, barapplyinga nk'abandi bose, ariko iyo bagiye gukora ibizami basanga bagira barrier yuko iyo bagiye gukora ikizami basanga imashini bari bukorereho zitabemerera kuzikoresha kubera hatarimo application bakoresha, either JAWS cyangwa indi application bakoresha. Ugasanga nk'umuntu yaturutse mu ntara yaje gukora ikizami ariko ntakore exam, yaba afite na mashini ye irime application, nibe abemvigileta ntibemere kuyicekinga wenda ngo barebe ko yakopera ngo akora ikizami, agatada koze ikizami kandi wenda yaturutse Rusizi cyangwa yaturutse ahandi. Rero nk'uko hariho inclusive employment mwadufasha n'abo bavandimwe bacu nabo bakabasha kujya bakora babona access kuri exam. Murakoze.
He was advocating to make sure that during administration of exams for public servants and even in the private sector, we have to make sure that we are mindful about an aspect of inclusion, especially for persons with disabilities. So there is what's being done, but again, it's not enough, but this is a very sensitive issue that should be dealt with, and I know the Minister of Public Service and Labor is doing a lot to make sure that this is addressed, but you acknowledge the fact that it should be fast-tracked to make sure that you are providing more sustainable solutions. In the interest of time, I will take 2 more questions. Ndafata ikibazo kimwe umugabo n'umugore, w'igitsina gabo n'igitsina gore. Muranyihanganira ibindi turaza kugumya tubiganira, abayobozi bari hano twaza no kugumya tukaganira nabo tugiye kuri lunch.
Murakoze.
Waburetse gatoya. Ndahera ahangaha, hanyuma nge n'inyuma hari iruhande rwa kamera, abo ngabo babiri wowe. Mwakwihutisha.
Murakoze.
Ndabona uri umujene mu munota umwe ukoreshe neza.
Yego. Ikibazo cyanjye kirajya kuri nagari ikibazo ni nk'inyunganizi academia na private sectors. Kuri academia nashaka kusaba abari hano ba schools kugira ngo bemphasizing ku kintu kijyanye no kwigisha abanyeshuri kubaho mu bushobozi bafite. Hari abaza ku kazi ukabona amafaranga babonye ntago babasha kuyabamo, barashaka kubaho ubuzima bwa social media. So icyo kintu cyakagombye kujya mu mashuri kugira ngo mwigishe kutareba social media ugashaka kubaho nka mugenzi wawe. Nyamara you can't afford it. Ikindi kirajya kuri private sectors n'aba labor inspectors. Sometimes women turagenda tukapplyinga ariko ugasanga private sectors muradutinya, and we have gender. Nukuvuga ngo inshingano mfite n'umugabo arazifite. Ntimukadutinye muvuga ngo kubera inshingano nyinshi dufite zo mu rugo nzaza amasaha yawe yakoze inyakore gakeya. Mfite umugabo azamfasha. Nuvuga ngo applyinze umugabo ariko ukansiga ndi umugore ntacyo uzabufashije igihugu. Rwanda is changing, so don't fear women. Turafashanya. Even pregnant women murabatinya, ugasanga muraduhereza ama contract makeya saying ngo nitumara kubyara there is a law covering us kuko dutwite, ariko nyuma yo kubyara they don't cover it. So mwidutinya mufasha abagore. And then another thing ni ku bakobwa batoya, bagomba guhaguruka nabo bagacreatinga their jobs. Mwikitinya abahungu barahari barakora twamubonye, ariko natwe abakobwa twabishobora. Thank you.
Yeah, she's stressing the fact that maybe women are able, the private sector has to take the lead to make sure that women, gender equality is mainstreamed in their plans. The fact that maybe they are business driven, but they should also give a chance to women because they are able. Inyuma navuze gihara kuri kamera. The floor is yours, wakwihutisha.
Murakoze, nitwa Gislaine Rusine, wambere supervisor muri RDB nkora internship. So nari mfite igitekerezo ku bijyanye n'aba business owners. So muri Africa in general, not just in Rwanda, we have a difficulty of businesses starting but not ngo bamara igihe kinini muri market. So I would give a suggestion to come up with strategies where the government can invest in sandboxes to train, to give skills, to even see if those businesses have are in the right time to enter to penetrate the market. Because right now, like the CEO Pichet says, we have to come up with businesses that have the objective of growing big, of becoming large businesses in the market. So yeah, thank you for the interest of time. That was my suggestions. Thank you.
Murakoze cyane. Bajya bavanga umwanzi w'igihe n'iki? Ni amasaha. Undi ufite ikibazo araza kitugezaho kubera ko n'izindi gahunda ziri bukomeze, ngira ngo PS Minicom yanavuze ngo dushimire imifotere yaduhaye undi munsi n'andi masaha tujye no kugira icyo gutekereza ku buryo tuzahanga ya mirimo. Ariko nkuko CEO BRD yabivuze, nimujya gutekereza uburyo abantu bagiye kunywa agacupa bakayamara, ahubwo mutekereza uburyo mwakora wealth accumulation, tugira ibyo tuzaraga imiryango yacu. Ndagira ngo mpa abantu babiri ijambo kuri pana hano dusoza. Ndariha CEO wa Kepra just to reflect on the question that was raised by this lady about the mode of Kepra and how maybe we can be long life runners instead of maybe and then I will give a floor to the CEO PSF just to give a reflection on what has been discussed just in a few minutes as we are going to an end of our conversation as panelists.
Okay, thank you very much. So I want to say a couple of things. The first is it's an interesting point you bring up about asking young people not to live based on social media, live within their means. I'm always fascinated that people think that academic institutions tugomba kurera. Kuko icyo ni ikibazo cy'uburere. Kandi hano babikura mu babyeyi. Ababyeyi babaho outside of their means. Nanjye ndi umubyeyi, I know what I'm talking about. Parents live outside their means. Ntago babwiza ukuri abana aho bakura amafaranga. Kenshi abari mu kugira ngo ujyane umwana wawe ku ishuri ryiza, kenshi abari amadeni. Ntabwo bo babibwira abana. So aho aba bana babikura, it's in how their parents are living. Then mukabazana ku ishuri mukavuga ngo mudufashe mubarere bazabe abanyarwanda beza bakoreye igihugu. So I want to leave you with that reflection that academic institutions are not primarily there to teach. I have to be careful because we have to teach civic duty, but uburere ni byo mu rugo. Kandi imiryango yacu tugomba kuyistrengtheninga kugira ngo tuzagire igihugu gikomeye. But on that point, I think, and by the way, at Kepler we have a life skills program that talks exactly about that. Financial literacy, hygiene, sexual reproductive health, we do all that. It's a mandatory program in the first year. And we started it 2 years ago because we had so many issues, even on hygiene. Ngewe buriya umuntu ugira ikibazo cya hygiene ntago twabana muri Kepler. Nigiye nguciyeho mu nzira ndakubwira nti ngwino tubanze tuganire kuri iki kibazo. Ariko it's very costly, by the way. It's a very costly program. Kandi ntabwo biri muri budget yacu isanzwe academics. So you cannot ask academic institutions to work on ibintu byapfuye mu burere. Icyo kibazo, I think it's very important for us to reflect as a society. That's number one. Number two, I think what we need to work on very much so in terms of lifelong learning, and nabivuze kare when Kameta was speaking, is that in Rwanda we have an attitude, impamvu tutagira angel investing buriya CEO, is that abanyarwanda, I don't know if it's just ibyo twaciyemo n'ukuntu duteye, ntabwo dushaka kundi akira mbere yacu. So nimara kukira, then nzatekereza abo ngenera to expand my power. But nkuko wabivuze, we are at a critical moment of urgency where we need to understand that we have to multiply for all of us to survive past 2050. And I think, I'm not sure how we fix that because that is it's a primary concern and why we have an aversion to risk. Kuko uravuga uti ngewe ntago nshaka guseba. And we teach it to our kids very young. We teach our kids to be risk adverse very young. And then we tell them when they graduate, go and mushinge business when you've already created a lot of risk averse adults. So I think a lot of these things have to be fixed at a younger age. The last thing I wanted to talk about in terms of lifelong learning is just to remind you, I am also not in the career. I actually started in economics myself. I am not in the career that I started, and I think what we need to encourage our young people to understand, and it comes back to attitude as well, is, every time I go to a high school graduation, I tell them, the world does not owe you anything. But what we tell our young people is that the government owes them everything. So I don't know how we manage this double standard that we are setting up. We're saying the world really does not owe you anything. By the way, in 2050, when we have many young people with skills, that's why America is the way it is. You realize if you don't take this job, if you don't work hard, if you don't fight, there's 50 other people lined out to take up your job. The reason we act like this is because you know that maybe you're one or two who has that skill, right? So we need to find a way to align our expectations with the view of young people. They say to them, "Ngoreta n'umubyeyi, kandi umubyeyi ntacyo wayabura n'umubyeyi wawe, sibyo?" And at the same time, we say, go and fight. We have to find a way to balance what we are telling our young people and how we're training them. I think a lot of my reflections are very qualitative. I don't have quantitative. I left economics a long time ago. But one thing I want to say is we do, for young people specifically, I think as a country, I say this every few years, if we want to become a strong economy, there are things that we have to have independence in. Energy, food, right? We cannot be a strong economy if we are reliant on the outside for food and for energy. There are many things, this is where you should be creating businesses, because this is where we need to be independent and strong. We can reflect on other things that need to be done. The creative industries are important, the sports industries are important, but if we're still importing food, still importing energy, we are always going to be behind, and I'll leave you with that thought. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. One, let me start with the attitude element and advise the motivation that we usually give people. Kindly, and this applies to all, private sector, academia, civil servants, any human being. When you are giving someone motivation or encouragement, stop citing failures. Urabikora se ubushize ntabonye umwana warunaka ko byamunaniye kandi barafite ubushobozi. Wowe se urumva muri famille ufite umuntu uzagujya inyuma ko twese tura kategori yacu ari yingiye. Let people try their chance and stand there to allow them to fail and still be there for them when they fail. They start a new step. So mu biganiro dutanga comparing ibihugu na business iyo zije, kindly I'm begging you, stop citing your failures, because your failures is not my failures, is not my shortcomings. Allow people to do their business. Secondly, let's find a way of expanding businesses to come from these secondary cities and go back to rural. Hari business sector which has been facing challenges, brewery, inzoga. Inzoga zirica abaturage biki, ariko when these ordinary people, they are sitting in their homes down the village, they make proper brewery. Abagasomaho agacuma murakazi. That, I don't know if urwo rwagwa kubarunwa ruruturuva ahantu mu ruganda. So how do we make sure that small family, smallhold family, babrewing iyo nzoga ukuntu ahubwo twayitwara mu ruganda ahantu ikaba a raw material for the high end consumers. Abacuye umuhanda ujya muri Southern Province za Ruhango ari ahantu hari abantu b'abayobokamana, sinshaka kubivuga bitaza kugira ngo iyo brewery iyo umuntu ahageze afata akajerekani ka litiro 5 agataha anezerewe kandi bagatanga amafaranga. So we can create more jobs in rural areas other than teaching people, telling them that you go to Kigali, that's where you will create more jobs. Yes, it is, but you cannot have all that. Lastly, if we are going to create sustainable jobs, sustainable in a number of ways, sustainable in terms of skills, sustainable in terms of decent jobs, and sustainable in terms of adding value, these kind of conversations shouldn't be one-off. Ntabwo ari ibintu bifite kubaho do celebrating Labor Day, do celebrating Industrial Day, do celebrating. We must come up with a framework. How best do we engage on either quarterly basis, kugira ngo to reviewing what do we need the most and what do we need as a country. Kuko nk'uyu munsi nahoze mbireba, we are talking about job creation, but if you count the number of holidays we have had since 2025 began, how many hours do we work? You ask ourselves, are we on pressure to do more jobs, or we are on pressure to have more reflection as we watch movies on Netflix? Thank you so much.
As we are coming to an end, there is an important question that I want to raise to the CEO of Kepra, Sporters Industry. When is Kepra playing next? I know we are having a fan base of Kepra in this room.
So our women's volleyball team plays tomorrow at 6 p.m. at Petit Stade. Welcome.
Okay, thank you very much. As we are coming to an end, there are some important points that I want to highlight. CEO PSF has said, try and fail. And from the failure, we run a route and create a more sustainable business. And again, CEO Kepra yavuze ngo, the world, and even in Rwanda, most important, doesn't owe you anything. Aho kugira ngo nungana n'ibyo meya w'umujyi wa Kigali yavuze, tugomba gushaka ibisubizo twumva ko umuntu akwiye gutekereza ngo u Rwanda rwakoze byinshi cyane akora byinshi. Think of what you can do for your country, aho gutekereza iki gihugu cyagukorera. Nuhera aho ngaho uzabona ibisubizo. Hanyuma ikindi kintu ngira ngo arukeho ona Minister wa Public Service and Labor yavuze ikintu gikomeye, umuco wo kwizigama, bikananganisha ku kibazo nanone COBRD yavuze kijyanye no kuvuga ngo we are the minds of our ancestors. Buri gihe tujye dutekereza abana bacu ejo, generation zizaza zizatwibukira kuki, what will be our legacy. No kuvuga ngo badukanguriye kugira umuco wo kuzigama, cyane cyane twibanda ku kugira assets tuzasigira generations zizaza, arizo nicyo twakwita mu mahanga wealth creation. Nicyo kintu kizatuma tujya no kuri ya ntego y'igihugu cyacu to become a middle income country mu 2035 and a high income country mu 2050. Nabashimanya ko Minister wakoze beta n'umurimo ku kizere mwangiriye kugira ngo moderating ipano. Natangiye mbabwira ngo nintaza kwambara inkweto za pishete ngo zinkwire munyihanganire, ubwo ndaza kumwegera ambwira amanota yampa niba nagerageje kugira ngo ubutanza bikore neza kurushaho. Ndabashimiye, murakoze.